been capturing everything from a point of safety, from a point of like, if I get it into the system captured well, I can do anything I want to because I have all of the tools in the world. I can model, I can sample, I can, replace everything. That's not at all what Vance does. And it's unbelievably like more inspiring, to kind of go that way. So that was just a complete game changer for me, like to use that overused word, but nothing I've done since then sounds like what I did in the first half of my career. It's just a completely different thing, and it's making better records because of it and enjoying it more.
That's amazing.
I'm way more proud. I feel like I'm making art instead of like doing a technical job.
Wow.
It really changed my life.
Yeah.
Like that was huge.
That's amazing.
So coming back from those 2 days and feeling like I had just like had my world turned upside down and was so thrilled with the results of that, I was like, this is something I'm going to do every year from now on. I need to put money into my budget. Like I need to set aside money to do one of these trips every single year. Like that's just going to be a yearly expense for me from now on, because holy cow or whatever. So I was looking at, Mix with the Masters and everything else. And I was a member of pureMix very early on. Like shortly after their launch, I was like getting videos from the site. They didn't have subscription yet at that point, but because I was on the mailing list, I got a mailing list or a newsletter for a masterclass they were doing in New York. And I knew of Fab from seeing him in trade magazines, and I knew that he had done the Shakira song for the World Cup that was around that time too, which was like very well recorded and, very cool. So Fab was one of the videos I had seen on pureMix. I think it was the vocal recording one. That was another one of those things that kind of changed things for me about like just getting it right at the source. And in that video, he kind of shows like just with one mic like placement, oh, he sounds really essy. Let's move the mic over to the side and angle it in. But the pop filter is separate from the stand. So the pop filter stays where it is. The mic moves, and now it's off axis from the S. Singer keeps singing straight, sounds better. Then he's like, but you lose closeness, and now we're going to bring it closer. And it was like all these little changes that he did to make the vocals sound like it had been through all of the processing that we do later on. But it was like, again, get it right at the source. Like listen to what's coming through the speakers while you're tracking and deal with it. Don't just like, yes, I hear sound, let's go. Take, or whatever. So
right. Which is what that's what's going on these days, right? Like I've been talking about this a bunch recently on episodes that are forthcoming of just like, people just want to just get, or I already released one of the episodes with Sam Sherbin. He was talking about people don't even want to like, they just slam the CL1, just slam the preamp, slam it, and who cares? Like it'll be fine. Let's just get to mixing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like such a backwards approach. Sometimes you can get more performance and more like inspiration of the artist if they're just ready to go and they don't want to wait. But yeah, it's totally not like the correct or, the way maybe you would think you should do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like what Vance said about working with Jack, like it's important to get going and move quickly, but being prepared for that is knowing like what you're going to do ahead of time and then, kind of getting there to be fast. But on that note though, when was the last time that you got something to mix that was like with an acoustic drum kit and you had like the kick and the snare in the center of the overheads?
Just those three I don't remember.
Yeah. Like
it's happened at some point.
Yeah.
It's happened at some point. But
that's nice.
It's been a while.
I rarely like everything I get to mix. It's like the kick drum is on the far left and the snare drum's on the far right. And it's like when you listen to a drum kit come from speakers, where do you hear the kick drum and the snare or whatever? But every time you solo up the overheads, it's, it's like you guys didn't listen. You just put up the mics and then you went in the control room and you started going, You might have checked like, do the cymbals sound good? But you didn't listen to the picture of the kit because nobody would ever, you're not doing a Beatles record. Like you're not the style of this track. No, that you want me to put the kick in the middle, but it's in the left of the overheads, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's one that's like a big one for me. Is just like you can tell very quickly if the tracking engineer is good if you just solo up the kit and listen to the mics. And it's like, did this person actually create an image or whatever, or did they throw it up to just kind of go? Is the snare out of the out of polarity with the overheads or that kind of thing? It's like, it's like you weren't really listening to that. So that's one. Is like moving with intention, like coming out of the Vance thing, it's moving with intention, having a sound in your head and making that come out of the speakers at the creative moment. those were like the big takeaways from that really rocked me.
Yeah. And he's done so many of those reps that he just knows what's going to work in every kind of scenario.
Yeah.
He's able to just be like, oh, this is that kind of thing. Let me just put the mic in this position.
Yeah. Yeah. And we should talk about this, like, if we go into the pureMix stuff too, but like being on those video shoots too, one, it was amazing. Well, yeah, I'll just tell this real quick. It was amazing, like,
go for it.
Going from being in that workshop to being in my role in pureMix and getting to go back to Vance and, like, one, just telling him how much that changed things for me. And then two, being like, can you do that on camera now? Because I want to show the world what I went through or whatever, like, that was huge. Like, Fab set that up,
Wow.
But that was going into it. I was like, Vance, like, I want to tell you my experience about, like, what happened to me on that workshop. And that's what I really want to see come through this so we can deliver that to the members or whatever. Because it was so changing for me. So getting to go and do that, we've gotten to do it 3 times now with Vance or whatever. But that was a nice full circle thing. So
wow, yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, so like 2015, I saw that newsletter for Fab's masterclass, and I went to that, and it was a well-known studio in Times Square that's not there anymore because condos. So, but
as you do with all the New York, that 48th Street with all the Sam Ash and they're all gone now.
Yeah,
all that Music Row or whatever they used to call it.
Yeah.
It was there when I grew up, but
what was
not
the place
anymore.
Across from Sam Ash? Was it Manny's Guitars or something?
Yeah, yeah.
That place
Manny's.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's not there. It might still be there. It might be like one left. There might be like one of those stores left. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't live in New York anymore, so I guess they'll have to have the New Yorkers verify.
They're all condos.
That's all. It's all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another part of your origin story. You were in New York.
I grew up in New York. Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so my dad's from Ohio. My mom's from Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn, and now I live in Israel.
Awesome.
I'm not going to give my full origin story on this episode. This is your episode.
I keep trying to pull it out of you.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
It's a whole new podcast.
Or have me back and I'll interview you.
We'll have.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that, that could be cool.
I'd love to. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we'll flip roles.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Let's do that. All right.
Sweet.
You got. I'm sold.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so I'm in your hometown for that masterclass, and that another amazing experience. Like, it was amazing New York players. The New York sound is a thing, like pretty dry drums and all that. So like learning that side of it was really, really awesome. Another great masterclass. Like that one specifically, Fab is an incredible producer and has insane songwriting chops. So like the ability to arrange a song and to pull people's ideas into something that translates well for a listener is just something that he is lightning quick at and does so well. Like, he's an incredible mixing engineer, obviously, but like the thing that doesn't get shown a lot of the time is his producer chops. He's really damn good. It's really fun to watch. So that was almost the bigger thing that I took away from that. Like, it was amazing watching him mix. But I kind of remember like being on cloud 9 after day one, watching the producing side of it and being like, whoa, like I got, kind of rocked in the recording and mixing side from Vance on that first one. Really walked away with some like producing stuff on this one, and then obviously like a bunch of mixing stuff too, because he's who he is as a mixer. But during the mixing session of day 2, so day 1, like we tracked it. MSR Recording was the name of that studio. Day 1 we tracked over there. Day 2 we went to Fab Studio Flux, and we mixed it in his room, the fabulous room. We were all in there, and kind of like halfway through the mix, he was taking a break, and he just started, he was kind of thanking everybody like for being pureMix members and for watching the content and everything. And he started, talking about what was next for the company. And this is in 2015, so pre-subscription or any of that. And he said, the next thing I want to do is build the world's best encyclopedic Pro Tools course. So he's like, I want to go from literally like the A to Z thing, but he's like, everything that you could ever want to know about Pro Tools will be in there. And then I want to build these like paths and tracks about like, I just want to know about mixing. Just show me the mixing stuff, or just show me the tracking stuff, or just show me the post stuff, or whatever it is. So he had like these this whole like course idea mapped out. And he's like,
choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, it's going to be epic. I can't wait to do it. I'm just looking for the right guy to do it because I'm busy making records and doing all the other things I have to do. He's like, but coming to a pureMix near you no later than very soon. That's his like classic tagline. So he turns around and he starts mixing again. And I'm immediately thinking back to that first day that I was in that studio and I saw Pro Tools version 5. Right after that, this is like, you know, between like going home from the studio that day and like leaving for college, my parents like got me a Digi 001. And this was like my way to prove to them that I was serious about wanting to do this as a career. They got me a Digi 001 and they were like, you know, why don't you learn this thing inside and out? And if you still feel, you know, after a couple months that you want to go to recording school, like we'll talk about it again. So I like ripped that manual left, right, like so many times. I memorized the thing, like practically memorized it. I knew every shortcut that I could possibly know. Like that was going to be my thing. Like around that time that I was in college, a Pro Tools operator was like a real job in the studio. It was like, there was a guy that you would call to come and run Pro Tools for the session, which is absurd now. But at the time that was a thing. And that's what I thought I was going to be doing after school. But yeah, twists and turns. But anyway, Pro Tools was kind of the thing that like locked me into the whole, you know, I want to be a recording engineer. It was the marriage of computers and music. And I loved it. I like obsessed about it. I lived up in my room for a couple months with that 001, just recording anybody I could before I left. So all of that to say, when he said that, that was like immediately what went, you know, ripped through my head was like, there can't be a bigger Pro Tools nerd in the universe than I am. Like I know every shortcut or whatever. Like, you know that thing, like when you watch somebody using a DAW and, you know, like maybe it's their first year of using the DAW and you're like 10 years in and you're like, oh, this is excruciating. Please let me sit down at the keyboard.
Yeah, there was a moment. Have you ever seen any of Jacob Collier's YouTube tutorials?
No.
Or he walks through his sessions. And
I have seen one. Yeah.
I mentioned him before we started recording because you have those key monitors behind you, and he uses those as well.
Yeah.
And so he would do like Logic breakdowns, and at some point he's like, oh, and so he was like trying to comp his drums like in a way that like if you use Logic, you would never comp your drums.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And he was like literally just choosing takes like very manually between each of like the specific kits. And he's like, if anybody knows how to like, you know, do all of them at once, that'd be great. I'm like, dude, I do this all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I shouldn't, I probably should have reached out. And this is before, I was more coy at the time. I should have just reached out to Jacob Collier. But
yeah, well,
I think a bunch of people already told him anyways.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, you got to group it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like,
so yeah, that was always me, like with Pro Tools for sure. And what happened at the end of that thing, like at the very end of the workshop, they had this like Fab does these amazing like wine parties on the rooftop of Flux, and so that was our like goodbye, like, you know, thanks for coming kind of thing. Was like we were all, you know, just having wine up on the roof at the very end of the second day, and I was going to say goodbye to Fab, and like I was just going through my head like, should I ask him if he's found anybody? Should I do that? And this is not in my character at this point to do this at all. Like I was never the guy who was like jumping out of my seat to be like, I could do that. Let me do that or whatever. It was, I think maybe humble to a fault, but I don't know. Like that's hard to say about yourself. So I don't know, but I wasn't jumping out at opportunities a lot like that. So out of character for me, I went up to say goodbye to him and I was like, you know, you were talking about like looking for the biggest Pro Tools nerd. I think it's me, and I have some video experience from doing post-production. I think I could do that. And he's like, are you sure? That's a lot of work. And I was like, I know. And at that time, like when we launched the recording studio in Columbus, I did a free YouTube series. At this time, it was kind of a rare thing to have like multi-camera shoots in a studio of bands in like 2010 or 2012. Sorry. That's when we opened the studio. And we were doing that like as a for free thing. We did like 150 local bands. It was 150 episodes of this YouTube show. So I had done a lot of video at that point. So I kind of told him like, well, this is something that I did. I was actually like the editor for all of those episodes as well. I like taught myself how to, video edit so I could do